Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a story where Hollywood magic literally collides head-on with gritty true crime. We're talking about the absolute most famous shoes in cinematic history, a small-town museum heist in the dead of night, an aging mob associate looking for a final score, and a record-breaking payday that completely shocked the memorabilia world. Okay, let's dive right into this. $32.5 million. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the jaw-dropping, record-shattering price that a single pair of shoes commanded at a Heritage Auctions event back in December 2024. I mean, think about that. We aren't talking about a sprawling luxury mansion here. We're not talking about a private jet or a whole fleet of supercars. We are talking about a pair of size 5.5 red pumps. But hey, this isn't just a story about wealthy collectors tossing around astronomical sums for old movie props. It begs a deeply fascinating question. So, how exactly did the most famous shoes in movie history, Dorothy's ruby slippers from the 1939 classic The Wizard of Oz, end up at the absolute center of a mob-tied heist? The reality behind all the glitz and glamour is way darker and, frankly, far more bizarre than anything you would ever see on the silver screen. Section 1. Record-breaking sale, Hollywood's Holy Grail. To truly wrap our heads around the staggering financial weight of these ruby slippers, we've kind of got to look at the broader context of that December 2024 Heritage Auctions event. Just look at the massive pop culture footprint of these other surviving 1939 artifacts. The Wicked Witch's hat alone, a piece snagged by legendary Hollywood collector Kent Warner, went for nearly $3 million. Producer Mervyn LeRoy's script, $50,000. Dorothy's screen door fetched $37,500, and a Dorothy Gale wig hit $30,000. Those are incredible numbers on their own, for sure, but combined they are just a drop in the bucket compared to the slippers. As Joe Madalena, the executive vice president at Heritage Auctions, perfectly put it, there is simply no comparison between Judy Garland's ruby slippers and any other piece of Hollywood memorabilia. And you know what? He absolutely wasn't exaggerating. That $32.5 million price tag single-handedly shattered the previous entertainment auction record of $22.8 million, which had been standing way back since 2011. They are literally the undeniable holy grail of Hollywood artifacts. It really goes to show that we aren't just buying props, we are investing in our shared cultural history. Section 2. The 2005 Museum Heist. A Dark Turn. And this brilliantly illustrates the decade-spanning, totally bizarre journey of these stolen slippers. It traces a direct line from cinematic innocence to serious criminality. We've got their initial creation by MGM designer Gilbert Adrian back in 1939, a shockingly brazen theft in 2005, a miraculous FBI recovery in 2018, and finally that record-breaking auction in 2024. The contrast between the movie's innocent, hopeful themes of finding your way home and the reality of this dark timeline is just incredibly jarring. Picture this. It's August 28th, 2005. The scene of the crime is the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, the beloved late actor's hometown. Michael Shaw, a former child actor and the proud owner of this specific pair of slippers, had loaned them to the museum for what was supposed to be just a simple, celebratory 10-week visit. He affectionately called them the traveling shoes because he loved exhibiting them for fans. But under the cover of darkness, someone smashed the glass of the museum door, absolutely shattered the plexiglass display case holding the shoes, and vanished into the night with the Technicolor treasures. And the most chilling reality of this smash and grab was punctuated by what the thief actually left behind in the wreckage. Just one. A single, solitary red sequin resting among the shards of broken plexiglass on the floor. For owner Michael Shaw, who had painstakingly cared for the slippers for decades, it was an absolute nightmare come to life. An irreplaceable piece of Americana was just gone. Section 3. 13-year cold case. Hunting the slippers. Now, despite a massive $1 million reward being offered by a mysterious donor, the case went totally cold. Crickets. But the unsolved mystery completely captivated the public, generating widespread but ultimately dead-end leads that frustrated local police and the FBI alike. The pop culture obsession with recovering them was so intense that televised hunts were organized. In fact, Josh Gates investigated the theft on his popular Discovery Channel show, Expedition Unknown, devoting the 6th and 7th episodes of Season 5 entirely to the hunt for these ruby slippers. But even with all that international attention, the shoes remained ghosts. Then, suddenly, a massive break in the case. Step 1. In 2017, a man approached the shoes' insurer, demanding more than the $200,000 reward being offered to help recover them. It was just a blatant extortion attempt. Step 2.
This bold demand triggered a massive FBI sting operation in Minneapolis the following year, in July 2018, where the FBI and local police successfully recovered the shoes from a sophisticated handover. Step 3. The FBI immediately whisked the recovered pair off to the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. There, highly trained conservators compared their specific construction, materials, and wear against the museum's own pair, finally authenticating them as the real deal.
Section 4. Real rubies mistake. A tragicomic twist. The perpetrator was finally indicted in 2023, and get this, it wasn't a sophisticated, high-tech syndicate of art thieves. Nope. It was a 76-year-old man named Jon Martin. According to his defense attorney, an old mob associate convinced Martin to come out of criminal retirement for a, quote, one last score. And here is the wildly unexpected twist to this entire case. Martin hadn't even seen the movie. Seriously, no idea. He had absolutely zero clue about the profound cultural significance of the prop he was stealing. Now, what's really interesting about this is the massive gap between what Martin thought he was stealing and what he actually took. His mob recruiter convinced him that because the shoes were famously insured for $1 million, they just had to be covered in real, priceless, mined ruby jewels. The reality? Well, they were just cheap white silk pumps from the Innis Shoe Company, dyed red and meticulously covered in glass beads and plastic sequins by MGM's costume department. The supreme irony of the situation is that a seasoned criminal literally risked his freedom for a handful of glass beads. Actually, scratch that, it wasn't even a handful, it was just the shoes themselves. After a fence told Martin the rubies were completely fake, he knew he couldn't sell them on the black market. Frustrated and completely defeated by the revelation, he just gave the slippers back to his mob associate and told him he never wanted to see them again. When Martin was finally sentenced years later, he actually received no prison time, entirely because he was 76, housebound, and receiving end-of-life hospice care. Section 5. A Hollywood ending. Over the rainbow. In February 2024, nearly 2 decades after they were taken in the dead of night, the FBI formally reunited owner Michael Shaw with his Technicolor treasures at a private ceremony right back at the Judy Garland Museum. A tearful Shaw stood beside the authorities who had hunted down the shoes, completely overcome with emotion, saying, "It's like welcoming back an old friend I haven't seen in years." But Shaw, knowing their immense historical value and their highly fraught history, decided it was finally time to part with them securely. He consigned them to heritage auctions. But before their record-breaking December sale, these traveling shoes dazzled fans across the globe one last time. They embarked on this incredible international tour with stops in Los Angeles, New York, London, and Tokyo. It just proves that these simple, sequin shoes transcend borders and generations, reminding us of the universal appeal of hoping for something better over the rainbow. Which leaves us with this final thought. The ruby slippers journeyed from an MGM soundstage to a museum glass case into the hands of a totally misinformed thief, recovered in a daring FBI sting, and finally landed on a $32.5 million auction block. It is absolutely the ultimate Hollywood true crime story, but it really makes you wonder, with the slippers now safely in a new home, what other priceless lost Hollywood treasures are still waiting out there over the rainbow? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.